Hi, welcome to the PFFL, the world's first professional fantasy football league. I'm Paul Tenney, founder and commissioner of the PFFL. Have you ever dreamed of making obscene amounts of money playing fantasy football? Have you ever dreamed of quitting your job and just playing fantasy football for a living? Have you ever dreamed of being called the best fantasy football player in the world? Well, at the Professional Fantasy Football League, we are here to make those dreams a reality. Now, we're not some high-stakes fantasy football league. It's just $19.95 per team per year, and you can make huge prizes. Now, how do we do it? We do it by having more people play. There's no limit to how many people can join the PFFL, and the more people that join, the bigger the prizes get. Now, we also are some weird new game that plays completely differently from anything you've ever done before. It's traditional fantasy football. You play in a 12-team league, just like you always have, for a full season. But there's a little twist. Now, if you're interested, we've got a short series of videos explaining how it all works. Take a look through those, and then go pro. Alright, so what is professional fantasy football? How does this whole thing work? As we stated in the first video, there's no limit to how many people can join the PFFL. We can take hundreds, thousands, even millions of teams someday. But we also said that it's traditional fantasy football. You play in a 12-team league just like you always have. So how do those two things work together? Well, the PFFL has two unique concepts that set us apart and make us different. The first is the organizational structure. We organize our leagues into what we call tiers. So the top tier, Tier 1, is just one league of 12 players. Tier 2 is 4 leagues of 12 players each. Right now we're working on filling out Tier 3, which will be 16 leagues of 12 players each. You get the idea. We can add Tier 4, Tier 5, Tier 6, etc. to support thousands, even millions of teams someday. Now the second big thing is league movement. When you join a league, let's say you join in Tier 3, you play your full season as you normally would, but at the end of the year, the first and second place teams from each league move up one tier. So if you're in Tier 3 and you win your league, or you take second place, you'll move up to Tier 2 for 2013. Of course, that means that the losers in Tier 2 move down into Tier 3. So over time, the best of the best from all of our leagues will eventually win their way up to the top until we've got an elite league at the top of truly professional fantasy football players. Now, of course, we'll talk about prizes a bit more in the next video, but here's the big key. The higher your tier, the bigger your prizes. So the more people we get in the PFFL and the higher you move up in the tier structure, the bigger your prizes until we get to the point of truly professional fantasy football players. People making enough money playing fantasy football to quit their jobs and play fantasy football for a living. Stay tuned for the next video, which will talk all about how the prizes work. Alright, all you crazy rabid PFFL fans out there, if you are not excited for PFFL 2012 yet, we're going to get you excited right now. That's because we're going to break down in this video how the PFFL 2012 prize structure works. Alright, we are going to give out $12,000 in prizes this year. That's right, double what we had for PFFL 2011. And keep in mind that we're only having 252 teams this year, so that means for a $19.95 entry fee, we're giving away almost $50 per person. You might ask, why the hell would you do that? Well, we want to make this fun for you. So all you got to do is get yourself signed up and get a team, get yourself a chance at some of the prizes. Now, let me break down for you how the prizes get paid out at the PFFL. Each year we set up a fixed budget for how much prizes we'll be giving out. And there's two kinds of prizes. There are league prizes tied to whether or not you win your league, and then there are bonus prizes, and we'll get you into that as well. So here's how it works. If you go, by the way, if you go to the PFFL homepage, you can see right down at the bottom, there's a section called 2012 PFFL Prize Schedule. You can check out exactly how all this works for yourself. So let's talk league prizes here. Of the $12,000 we're giving out, $9,600 will be given away for league winners, second place and third place in every single league. So for Tier 1, 2, and 3, that's divided evenly. It's $3,200 per tier. So for Tier 1, there's just one league. So that means the winners of Tier 1 will stand to win their portion of that $3,200. Top prizes here, $2,000. Now for Tier 2, there are 4 leagues. That means there's $800 per league being given out. The top prize in Tier 2 is going to be $500 this year. Then in Tier 3, there are 16 leagues. So that means of the $3,200, there's $200 per league for any Tier 3 leagues. So you can win up to $125 in Tier 3. Now, that might not sound like a lot of money, but the whole point here is you get into Tier 3 now, you win your way up, and you can win some big prizes, especially as the PFFL grows, and the prize budget grows along with it every single year. Now, that's how the league prizes work. Let's talk about bonus prizes. So the PFFL, if you didn't know this already, we've got all kinds of fun prizes happening on a weekly basis. Here's how it works. We've got things like most points each week, you win a prize. Top power ranking each week, you win a prize. We also have the PFFL Smack Tracker. If you haven't been to the PFFL Smack Tracker, it is a one-of-a-kind experience. Imagine a Facebook for smack talk. You can go in and talk smack at all of your friends. You can vote touchdown or fumble, whether you think smack talk is good or bad. Each week, the smack talk with the most touchdown votes wins a Smack of the Week prize. So get your friends in. The more friends you've got, every time you talk smack, you got a shot to win a prize each and every week. There's all kinds of more bonus prizes too. So the idea is, even if you're in a lower tier, you've got access to some big prizes each and every year. So as we grow, once again, that bonus prize pool grows too. So this year we'll have $50 a week to give away in Smack Tracker prizes, for instance. A couple years from now, that could be $1,000 a week just for talking smack. So get in, get your bonus prizes, and that's how you can make some money year one with the PFFL. Now, let's talk about longer term and just how prizes work with the PFFL generally. In order to be UIGEA compliant, we are required to set a fixed prize budget every single year. Other than that, the PFFL and fantasy football is perfectly 100% legal. So what we do is we just set up a prize pool like $12,000 for this year, and then as many teams as we get, it doesn't matter how many teams show up, we'll divvy up the pot evenly amongst all of those teams. So the idea is, as the PFFL grows, as more and more people join, we can set a bigger and bigger prize budget every single year. Again, the idea is we get to 1,000, 10,000, 1,000,000 people someday. We'll be able to set prize budgets big enough that our top tier players can literally quit their jobs and make a living playing fantasy football. So, time to get pumped up. We got $12,000 waiting for you. Go get signed up, get all your friends signed up, and let's win some money. And now, it's time to talk about everyone's favorite part of fantasy football. That's right, I'm referring to the draft. Is there anything quite like that magical moment when your cheat sheets are ready, when your palms are a little sweaty, when hope springs eternal and we all say to ourselves, this is my year. I am going to dominate this draft. No, there's nothing quite like that. And at the Professional Fantasy Football League, we want to take the draft experience to a whole nother level. So first, let me talk a little bit about how our draft works today, and then we'll clue you in on some things we've got in mind for the future. Today, we use an online auction-style draft system. For those of you that have done auction drafts before, I don't need to sell this to you. Once you've done auction, you never go back. But if you haven't done an auction-style draft, take my word for it. They're a lot more fun, they're more competitive, they're more strategic, and of course that's what we do here at the PFFL. We make it so that the best fantasy football players have the best chance to succeed. Now, shortly we'll have our PFFL 2012 Draft Center up and running, where you can find all the strategy, analysis, prior year results to get you ready for the draft. Now let's talk a little bit about the future of the PFFL draft. If you're like me, there's nothing you look forward to every year like draft weekend. That's right, getting together with your buddies for a weekend of mayhem and fantasy football. That's an experience we want to bring to the PFFL, but on a much larger scale. Imagine, instead of getting together with 12 friends, having hundreds or even thousands of people descending on Las Vegas in late August for PFFL draft weekend. We'll fly all of the Tier 1 guys and put them up for the weekend, and the centerpiece of the whole weekend will be the live Tier 1 draft. How can you top that, right? But in order to make that fantasy a reality, we need you. First of all, get yourself signed up, go pro, and then spread the word. Before you know it, we will have a fantasy football tradition unlike any other. Alright, the next topic in this video series is about the rules that we use at the PFFL. These include things like league size and structure, roster and scoring rules, draft rules, free agency and trade rules, etc. Now, if you want a full list of all of the rules at the PFFL that we use, go to the-pffl.com and check out the rules section of our site. But at the highest level, our rules are designed to be traditional, simple, fun, fair, and competitive. We want to make sure that everybody has an equal shot and that the best players truly have the best chance at winning. Now, there's one other big thing about the way we set the rules up at the PFFL. That is, all of our leagues play by the same rules. And this has some huge implications. It allows us to do things at the PFFL that simply nobody else out there can offer. When we look at fantasy football today, there are over 30 million people in the US playing fantasy football every single year. That's a huge number of people, but at the same time, everything's completely fragmented. There's no standardization out there. This is one of the reasons we decided to start the PFFL in the first place. What you have is every league playing by different sets of rules. So if somebody wants to call themselves an expert or one of the best fantasy football players out there, how are they going to prove that? Your league might have a bunch of crap players, so fine, you win it every year. Another league might be very competitive, so I only win it once every 12 years on average. There's no standardization out there, so there's no way to tell who's really good at fantasy football and who isn't. Now, when everybody plays by the same rules across a growing number of leagues, it allows us to do things like power rankings. So for instance, every single week of the season, we give everyone a rank from the first team all the way down to the 100,000th team. Based on how you've been doing so far this season, we can compare across every single league in the PFFL and say who's the best and who's the worst. There's a lot more implications to this as well. So for instance, our PFFL draft. Since everybody's playing by the same rules, we can also establish what the prices are for every single player. So if Arian Foster's going for $75 across an average of 12 different drafts, that gives you a pretty good indication that you should pay $75 for Arian Foster or you're not going to get him on your roster. Same thing with free agency. So every week there's going to be a new pool of free agents. You might be wondering, well, how much should I bid on this player? Or how much should I bid on that player? In the PFFL, you can start to see prices emerge for free agents each week as well. What else? How about news? How many of you out there are absolutely sick of reading news items where they say something like, Jericho Cotchery looks like a good pickup in PPR leagues? Well, I don't play in a PPR league. Or you might want to pick this guy up if you're in a league that awards points for punters. Who cares? At the PFFL, our news is specific to the set of rules that we have in the PFFL. So when you read news, it's relevant to your league. You know whether you should be picking up players, dropping players, drafting players higher, not drafting players. All of our news is catered to you. So those are just some of the big differences with the rules in the PFFL. There's a lot more to it, but that's it for now.